Breaking news. Two words that can change the course of an ordinary day in an instant. It's a phrase that slices through the mundane, jolting you from routine to crisis. One moment, you're sipping coffee or checking emails. The next, your world is upended. That's exactly what happened one Tuesday morning in Bryan County, Georgia, a place where mornings usually begin with calm and predictability. The headline was impossible to ignore. ICE raids Hyundai's new Georgia EV plant. The word seemed almost surreal. For thousands of people, this wasn't just news. It was the start of a nightmare that would ripple through families, friendships, and livelihoods. The Hyundai Meta plant had symbolized hope for the region, a $7.6 billion investment, 8,000 jobs, and a partnership that brought together American workers and Korean innovators under one roof. It stood as a beacon of the US-Korea alliance, proof that collaboration could build a better, more prosperous future for everyone involved. Then, the news alerts hit. Federal law enforcement, an immigration operation, and a wave of confusion that swept through the community. Soon, it became clear. This was a full-scale ICE raid, not just a routine check or paperwork review. The scale and intensity were unmistakable. The agency that had long stoked fear in immigrant communities was now at the very heart of America's industrial revival, casting a shadow over progress. The irony was thick. The US had welcomed Hyundai with open arms and generous incentives, and now it sent in armored vehicles and flashing lights. For locals, the plant was more than just a factory. It was their future, their pride, and a symbol of hope for generations to come. They'd welcomed Korean families, shared meals, built friendships, and woven their dreams together in this new chapter. The raid felt like a betrayal, not just of Hyundai, but of the entire community that had invested its trust and hope in this partnership. The breaking news wasn't just about a factory, it was about a promise broken, broadcast live on TV for all to see, leaving a community in shock. The world watched as hope turned to shock, and the story of Bryan County became a global headline overnight. And in that moment, trust, so carefully built, began to unravel, leaving everyone to wonder what would come next. Imagine being Mr. Kim, a Korean engineer who moved his family to Georgia for what he believed was the opportunity of a lifetime. He left behind everything familiar, his language, his friends, his extended family, hoping to give his children a brighter future in America. He was here legally, on an E-2 investor visa, handpicked for his expertise and commitment. Every document was in order, every requirement met. He was proud to be chosen, believing he was part of something bigger. His kids were making friends at their new school, learning English, and discovering American traditions. His wife was settling in, navigating new routines, and finding comfort in small joys like grocery shopping. Together, they were building a life from scratch. For Mr. Kim and hundreds like him, America was a promise. A place where hard work and dedication would be rewarded, where dreams could become reality. They worked long hours, bridging Korean innovation and American manufacturing, determined to contribute and make a difference. They were proud, essential partners, here to build, not take. They saw themselves as part of the American story, not outsiders. The morning of the raid began like any other. Coffee at the kitchen table, a quick goodbye to family, and a hopeful drive to the plant, ready for another day of honest work. Inside, the usual sounds of progress filled the air, machines humming, people talking, the rhythm of productivity. Mr. Kim was focused on his job, not his immigration status. He had the papers, the visa, the company's backing. He never imagined that his world could be turned upside down in a matter of minutes. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Shouting replaced machinery. Agents swarmed the floor, their presence overwhelming and unexpected. Confusion turned to fear as people were ordered to stop, hands up. The sense of safety vanished, replaced by panic and disbelief. Mr. Kim, a respected engineer, was treated like a criminal. His years of service and dedication meant nothing in that moment. His explanations ignored, his requests denied. He was separated from colleagues and herded with other Koreans, powerless to defend himself. The American dream evaporated, replaced by terror and powerlessness. The hope that once filled their home was now replaced by fear and uncertainty. In an instant, everything changed. The factory floor fell silent, dreams interrupted by the harsh reality of the raid. The promise of partnership was shattered, trust broken in a single morning. Mr. Kim's story became a warning, a reminder that even those who follow every rule can lose everything in a moment. The dream had become a nightmare, leaving scars that would last a lifetime. And the cost was deeply personal. Families torn apart, futures left uncertain, and a sense of belonging lost forever. Picture it. Hundreds of federal agents in tactical gear storming a factory. Not criminals, but engineers and technicians were the targets. The raid created chaos. American workers watched in disbelief as their Korean colleagues were restrained. Language barriers turned confusion into terror. ICE claimed it was investigating visa fraud. Some workers might have been doing tasks outside their visa's scope. Instead of a meeting, the government sent in a small army, shutting down a multi-billion-dollar facility. Detained workers were zip-tied, loaded onto buses, stripped of dignity and trust. Their families had no idea where they were. The raid wasn't just enforcement, it was a spectacle, broadcast worldwide. The message, even valued allies aren't safe. Years of trust were shattered in a single morning. The reaction was instant and furious. In Seoul, the government demanded answers, feeling betrayed by its closest ally. Hyundai, once celebrated, was now treated like a criminal enterprise. The company condemned ICE's actions, defending its workers and reputation. Local officials in Georgia were livid. Years of work to secure the plant, now undermined. Community leaders felt shame and betrayal. The raid threatened their future. In Korea, the story dominated headlines, fueling outrage and distrust of America. US media questioned the wisdom of the raid, but the damage was done. The consensus, a massive, unforced error. Trust was broken on both sides of the Pacific. The alliance was shaken, and the world was watching. Behind the headlines were real families, torn apart in an instant. Children came home to crying parents, confused and afraid. The Korean community in Georgia was gripped by fear. Who would be next? Protests formed. Families held signs, "Bring my dad home." The psychological toll was immense. Most engineers were released within 72 hours, but the damage was lasting. Many no longer wanted to stay in America. Trust was gone. The trauma lingered, the American dream replaced by fear. The human cost was the true tragedy, pain that no apology could erase. The raid didn't just damage an alliance, it damaged lives. Community and partnership were replaced by suspicion. The scars would remain, and the sense of safety was lost. The story's coverage revealed a deep divide. In Korea, it was a national insult, wall-to-wall coverage, emotional and critical. Families' stories led the news. Commentators called it betrayal. In the US, coverage was muted, framed as a political or immigration issue. The human element was often sidelined. For Koreans, Hyundai was national pride. For Americans, just another car brand. The disconnect was stark. Korea felt collective trauma, America moved on. Korean outrage pressured their government. US coverage allowed the story to fade. No one was fired, no policy changed. The damage to the alliance was real. One country was wounded, the other barely noticed. The world saw the difference. And trust eroded further. In the aftermath, government response was a mess. The state and commerce departments were silent. Families got no answers. Into the void stepped Hyundai and LG. They set up crisis centers, provided legal and emotional support, and worked to free detained employees. Executives visited families, offering reassurance and apologies. The companies showed compassion where the government failed. Hyundai and LG treated workers as people, not assets. Their decisive action highlighted the government's failure. In this crisis, corporations became the humane actors. The US-South Korea alliance, built over 70 years, relies on trust. A trust forged through shared sacrifice, mutual defense, and decades of close cooperation. This partnership has weathered wars, political shifts, and economic crises, always emerging stronger. But the recent ICE raid did more to damage that trust than any event in recent memory, sending shockwaves through both governments and their people. It signaled that America's internal dysfunction, political gridlock, unpredictable enforcement, could override even its most important strategic commitments to allies. The economic fallout is real and immediate. Billions in Korean investment are now at risk, with companies reconsidering their plans for expansion in the US. Why would global companies invest in America when the political risk is so high and the rules seem to change overnight? The raid threatens thousands of American jobs, disrupts local economies, and puts future investments in jeopardy, creating uncertainty for workers and their families. It's a spectacular own goal, undermining US economic goals and sending the wrong message to international investors. The incident also damages America's strategic position against China, giving Beijing an opportunity to exploit the rift and strengthen its own alliances. You can't ask for partnership and trust one day, then raid your allies' businesses the next. Such actions breed doubt and resentment. China gains a propaganda victory. America's reliability is now openly questioned on the world stage, weakening its influence. The cracks in the alliance are now visible to all. Adversaries are watching closely, ready to exploit any sign of division, and the cost may be lasting, with consequences that could echo for years in both economic and strategic arenas. The Hyundai raid is more than a bad day at one factory. It's a warning. America's handshake of partnership can turn into a fist of suspicion. Outdated immigration policies can destroy alliances in an instant. The world is watching, asking, is America a reliable partner? The path of paranoia leads to isolation and decline. The path of partnership requires trust, updated laws, and respect for allies. America must choose, build bridges or walls. The fallout from the raid is a lesson in how quickly trust is lost. The next move belongs to the United States. The world is waiting to see which path we choose.